The meeting of the Board of Trustees. Before we start, I wanted to send Ms. Branham's regrets. She had to go to the doctor today, and she is not able to be with us tonight. But she wanted to say that she wishes us well and that she hopes to be back soon. Next on our agenda is the invocation and pledge of allegiance. Mr. King.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to introduce two students from Airport High School, Caleb Calder and Hannah Fisher. Caleb Calder is from Lex2 Education. Caleb is a senior at Airport High School where he has a GPA of 4.7. He is in honors classes and AP classes. He is also taking 2 classes at Midlands Technical College. Caleb is a part of the Beta Club, the Spanish Club. He serves as treasurer of the National Honor Society, and he is captain of the boys tennis team. He plays first chair for the baritone and trombone section in the marching band. Caleb is very involved with his church, and he serves in the missions group where he helps with monetary donations to missionaries and helps collect coats and food for people in the community and people in his church. While serving in his church, he has helped collect and donate 75 coats to the Oliver Gospel Mission. Caleb also enjoys helping with fun activities like Falling Into Fun and the Trunk or Treat, which are community events that give children and their parents a safe place to go trick or treating and to have some fun. Although Caleb is unsure of where he will continue his education, he plans to become a nurse before becoming a nurse anesthetist. Hannah Fisher. Hannah is a senior at Airport where she is 11th in her class and has a GPA of 4.9. She has been a member of the varsity softball team since 7th grade. She received the Coaches Award, Team MVP, All-State, and All-Region recognition for the 2017 and 2018 seasons. She is a senator for student government, a member of the Beta Club and National French Honor Society, the B-27 Club, and is president of the National Honor Society. Last year, Hannah received the award for the highest class average in her honors calculus class, and she served as junior marshal. She was a member of Airport's orchestra her freshman year. Hannah is active in her church and community and participates in many festivals, services, and activities. During the summer, she volunteers at Camp Gigi and works with the special education program. She plays on a travel softball team that allows her to play competitive college-level softball around the country. Hannah will attend Coker College on an athletic scholarship and has been accepted into Coker Honors College. She plans to major in biology for a career in the medical field. Hannah will also be graduating with 5 college credits through Midlands Technical College. Hannah and Caleb.
Goodbye, High School. Dear Lord, thank you for this day, and thank you for all the many blessings that you have given to us. I pray that you would give these members the wisdom and the knowledge to make these decisions pleasing to your glory. I also pray over this meeting and pray that the decisions that will be made will be impactful and rewarding to everyone in this district. Surround each member as they gather together to make these decisions that are going to give support and encouragement to our community. And as you surround them, continue to bless them and their families in all they do. Thank you again for being with us and watching over us. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you for coming. Y'all are welcome to stay, or you're welcome to leave. You want to finish. Next on our agenda is the consent agenda. Without objection, the consent agenda will stand approved. And we move to public participation period. Do we have anyone? No request for public participation. We move on to reports on honors and accomplishments of students and staff. Dr. James.
Yes, sir. We have several students that are listed in your report, but the first thing I want to do is recognize our board. January is Board Appreciation and Recognition Month. That's the purpose of the little drop in there. If you have not been in school business, it's hard to understand. I've been doing this for a long time. It's hard for me to understand why anybody wants to do that. What I can say is this, and all of the boards I've been around, board members want the best for kids. And that's what it's about. This board is a unique board. This board gets no pay. I've worked for boards that got paid monthly. I got worked for boards that got paid by the meeting. I liked leaving that place because you had lots of meetings. They like to get paid. This board doesn't get paid. This board has led this district through some really tough times with bond referendums and deciding about buildings and those sorts of things that would just make people pull their hair out. There's very little positive recognition in being a board member that I can see. And I've been around a long time and dealt with a lot of school boards. What I can say is I work for 7 people who I truly believe have the best interest of 8,900 kids in Lexington 2 at heart. I'm appreciative for what you do. The schools are appreciative for what you do, and they've left some little Circes out there. There are no checks or anything like that. Just a lot of it is notes that, in my opinion, will be much more valuable than anything else, because you got kids that say they appreciate their new building or their new school or the new whatever they've got going on. And this board has led this district through some really tough times just in the 3 years that I've been here. I'm appreciative, and I know y'all are. So congratulations on being a board member. I don't understand you, but I'm glad you're Thank you. As part of it, and if you'll give me a little latitude, Mr. Bingham, part of what the board has agreed to do, they're signing a document of ethical principles, things that they will live by, things that they will do business by. Mr. Bingham signing that, we'll pass that around. I want to introduce our kids because we're in the kid business, but please do know that the board's taking this seriously. They volunteer basis, and when we do the right thing for the right reason, it turns out good. So thank you very much for that. We've got 2 students that I want to recognize that have done some outstanding things. The first is Trace Winger. Trace, seems like I run into you a lot. You do lots of stuff, man. Airport High School Student Council, most folks know that group works really hard. They've gotten lots of awards. During this last, which was the 87th Annual Southern Association of Student Council Conferences, Trace was awarded the Southern Association Student Council Member of the Year. That's given to one person throughout all of the student councils. It's a person that exemplifies leadership in the high schools in that category. And the Southern Association of Student Councils starts at Maryland. Never thought of Maryland being in the Southern Association, but it starts at Maryland and works its way around to Texas. Trace was the one student out of all those schools in all of those states that was recognized for this. He was recognized based on his leadership at Airport and his leadership in the community. He serves as student body president at Airport High School. He's the District 3 chairman for the South Carolina Association of Student Councils. He's Airport's High School Student Council hosted the District 3 rally in November and had over 350 kids there, and this young fellow right here was largely responsible. Congratulations. need to let Ms. Rawls help with this because she's really the movement behind it. But every year, the school district goes through an audit and we end up having to send a lot of information off as the CAFR, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, and every district tries to outdo every other district with what the cover looks like. It's almost like you get credit for the cover. And Marty decided that she wanted it to be reflective of District 2. So she reached out to the digital art and design class and said, we need somebody to create this cover. Well, the design selected for the cover, can we do that? Right. Jason Atkins designed this cover, and I hope we put it up there so you can see it. It's absolutely beautiful. It's got all of our schools in the district logo and all. Designed this. He's a junior at Brooklyn Casey High School. He's a level 2 digital art and design student at the Lexington 2 Innovation Center. He worked with Ms. Ross to create this, put it together. He put it together, she sent it back, he put it together, she sent it back. Came out with this outstanding cover right here. We're appreciative and we're glad you work free. Yes, sir.
All right, we move on to, we don't have any unfinished business, so we move to new business. Consideration of change of date for the regular monthly meetings of the Board of Trustees for February and April.
In the February 21st meeting, is scheduled during the time frame that the South Carolina School Board's annual convention is being held. The April 18 meeting is scheduled during spring break. What we would recommend, Mr. Bingham, is that we move the February 21st meeting to February 28th, and the April meeting from April 18 to April 25.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the recommendation of the administration to change the board February 21st meeting to February 28th, and the April meeting from April 18th to April 25th.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Key. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next is consideration of request for out-of-state travel for superintendent and executive assistant to the superintendent of the Board of Trustees.
Yes, as everyone knows, Mrs. Branham is being sworn in as the president of the National School Boards Association at the annual conference in Philadelphia. The folks that are doing this have asked for members of the board and superintendent to attend in the swearing in. According to policy, the board has to approve the out-of-state travel for the superintendent and the assistant. I would recommend that the board do that.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that the board approves the administration's recommendation for the out-of-state travel for the superintendent and the executive assistant to the superintendent to attend the national board meeting in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, March 30th through April 1st, 2019.
And we have a motion. Do I have a second?
No, second.
Second by Mr. Key. All right, discussion? Being none, all those in favor of the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Mr. Bingham, I
Yes.
don't have discussion on approving that, but I do have a request. I won't be attending that event, but I would appreciate if the allotment that the district would have paid for my attendance to be used to assist the airport ROTC pursuit of the national championship, to assist the BC High School choral group to their trip to Carnegie Hall in New York City, and to 3, assist Special Olympic athletes to attend Special Olympic events in the spring. They need some assistance and funding, and I know they're getting some help, but I think they need some additional help. So if this board would approve it, I would appreciate that consideration.
So I'll entertain a motion. How do you want to?
I make a motion that the expenses cover Ms. Kessler to attend the convention in Philadelphia be split equally between the airport ROTC, Brooklyn Casey Chorus, and Special Olympics for spring events.
Okay, there's the 3 groups.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right. I have a motion. Do I have a second?
So,
Can give Kevin to take out.
All right. Any discussion?
I would offer the same if I don't go. I haven't made a final commitment yet, but I think that's a wonderful thought, and I would follow suit.
All right. So,
Just mess up the emotion.
well,
It could be amended. So,
what you're asking is to amend the motion to include you if you do not attend.
Correct.
Okay, we have a motion to amend the first motion to add Mr. Summers. Do I have a second for that?
second.
Second by Ms. Wu. Okay. All those in favor of the amendment to the motion signify by saying aye. Aye. All right, all opposed? Okay, so now the original motion is Ms. Kessler or Mr. Summers, and would be distributing the money that would go towards their attendance of the convention would be used to those 3 groups. So all those, any other discussion on that motion? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next on our agenda is consideration of recommendation for weather makeup day for October the 11th, 2018.
Yes, sir. We've waited to get through hurricane season. It seems like we have the worst of our weather as far as school is concerned in the fall, and then to determine whether or not the governor was going to forgive those days. Right now, we don't have anything on that, and we've got October the 11th standing out there. To change our calendar at this point, we'd have several different options. We could extend the school day. We could make up the day on a spring break day, extend the school year, or a Saturday. The board has the authority to forgive 3 days. You have forgiven 1. I would recommend that you forgive this because we still don't know that the governor won't forgive it. So I would like to move forward. Then if we have bad or inclement weather, we'll adjust our calendar if we have to. But given the fact that we don't know, I'd like to forgive this day, if you will.
Okay. I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion that we approve the administration's recommendation to forgive the makeup day of October the 11th, 2018.
Okay, we have a motion. Do I have a second?
second.
Second by Ms. Wood. Discussion. Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next on our agenda is consideration of out-of-state travel for coordinator of evaluation and effectiveness.
Yes, sir. We began February, March, April time of year recruiting teachers, as most of you know. The board has to approve any out-of-state travel that uses any 100 or general fund monies. Kevin Smoke will be going to the same recruiting colleges that he did last year. We don't think that there will be any general fund money used. We think it'll be Title II teacher recruitment retention money, which is provided by the state of South Carolina. But in the offhand chance that it might have title or general fund money, I want to bring it to the board. So I would suggest or recommend that the board approve the out-of-state personnel travel with the possibility that some general fund money might be used.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Chair, I recommend administration recommendation of approval of out-of-state personnel travel and possibly using some general fund monies.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Key, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wood. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on our agenda is consideration and acceptance of and planned use of a monetary donation.
Yes, sir. It's the worst kept secret in Lexington too. Our board's well aware, we brought it to you, that the family of Mrs. Eleanor Mann wanted to make a monetary donation of $20,000 to Riverbank Elementary. Ms. Mann worked in the district for a long time and was adamant about children learning to read. Part of that was Ms. Mann's family, as nice a fellow as David Sims is, was not going to just give David a $20,000 check. So there had to be a plan that went along with that to support her passion about children reading. And so the $20,000, the plan will be to purchase books, increase the support for intervention materials, purchase browse bags that have books in them where they can go home and children can read at home for those kids that can't have those materials at home, to create a soft furniture design reading program area, an idea that makes reading fun and enjoyable for kids. The Mann family is supportive of Mr. Sims' plan, and we would recommend that the board accept the donation of $20,000 from Mrs. Mann's family.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we accept the administration's recommendation for the approval of the donation in memory of Mrs. Mann.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Key. Any discussion?
Only to thank the Mann family for their generous thoughts of our district, as Eleanor gave her life for so many years to this district, far beyond the school day. I'm just very appreciative of this family, and I hope that we acknowledge that too.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am, and this is right in line with what they wanted to do. And I mean, it's not a secret, we told the board about this when the Manns first came to us, but we didn't want the board to approve it until David had his plan in order. And I think that when you go over there and they've got a room with a lot of fun furniture that's soft and kids are laying around reading, it'll be a good thing. So, thank you, ma'am.
Okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, next on our agenda is presentation of financial and procurement audit results for FY 2018.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, we have Matthew Hodges with us tonight from Burkett, who has a presentation for you. On your, at your chairs is the CAPR for 2017-18, the copy of the procurement audit, and a copy of the agreed upon procedures audit for the affiliated organizations.
Mr. Bingham, as we go into this, to remind the board, the affiliated accounts procedures relates to those things that are associated with the school district but are not under the governance of the school district. It's booster clubs and trill teams and PTOs and that sort of thing. The CAPRA is Lexington 2 financial. We've got several different things working there. And I'm not an accountant. I'll hush Matthew and let you.
Well, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. James, thank you very much for your time this evening. I appreciate the opportunity to present the results of our audit for fiscal year 2018. I'll begin just by extending our thanks to your team for all their hard work in assisting us with our audit. I'll present our required audit communications and a summary of the financial statements for fiscal year 2018. Briefly, just look at our team. Larry Montague is our audit partner in our West Columbia office and oversaw the performance of our audit and approval of our audit reports. I served as audit manager and oversaw the day-to-day activities of the financial audit in a single audit, and Zach Buchanan oversaw the performance of the procurement audit for the district. And again, we want to extend our thanks to Marty Rawls and Travis Crocker and Tony Sheely and all the employees of the district who provided all the assistance that we needed in performing our audit and put in a lot of hours of putting together that comprehensive annual financial report that you have. Our required audit communications, there were no disagreements with management whatsoever in performing our audit. There were no consultations for second opinions with other independent accountants or any other issues discussed prior to our retention as your auditors. We had no difficulties in performing our audit and received full cooperation from your personnel. One item I wanted to bring to your attention for fiscal year 2018, a change in accounting policies. This was in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. And for fiscal year 2018, the district adopted Government Auditing Standards Board Statement number 75, that accounting for and financial reporting for post-employment benefits other than pensions. You'll recall that 3 years ago, the district implemented GASB 68, which deals with pensions and adopting the provisions of that statement, which require putting a net pension liability on your statement of net position. That's your government-wide statements. That net pension liability is an actuarially determined amount based on the district's contributions to PIBA, the state retirement administrator. And that actuarially determined amount is then put on your financial statements. It's important to note that even though it's called liability on your balance sheet, you're not going to have to write a check for the amount that's on the balance sheet. Again, that is an actuarially determined amount that you're required to list in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So for fiscal year 2018, there was a similar standard that the GASB issued and that the district has implemented, and that deals with OPEB, or other post-employment benefits, namely relating to health insurance provided by the state and its plan. The state, as with the pension plan, is running a deficit at the state level, and so based on the district's contribution to that plan, you're required to record your share of that state deficit. So that's what the district has done. For June 30th of 2017, that beginning net position amount had to be reduced by $86.9 million in order to reflect the district share of the state deficit. So the financial statements themselves are fairly presented in accordance with accounting principles that are generally accepted in the United States. There were no unrecorded misstatements, and our audit followed generally accepted auditing standards, government auditing standards, and the requirements of the uniform guidance. We tested the district's transaction based on our knowledge of your activities, and we used our professional judgment in determining appropriate sample sizes. Those sample sizes were designed for reasonable but not absolute assurance, and we did not identify any instances of non-compliance with district or federal policies as a result of our financial and single audits. We'll take a moment just to say the procurement audit that we issued did identify one finding where a purchase card authorization form had been filled out after the purchase had been made, and that's been noted by management and will be discussed with the employee. We have issued 3 clean opinions on your financial statements. First off, an unmodified opinion related to the financial statements themselves. Secondly, we identified no deficiencies in internal controls over financial reporting that were considered to be material to the financial statements themselves. And lastly, we issued a clean opinion in relation to your compliance with major federal award programs. The district does continue to be in an excellent financial position due to the foresight and leadership of you, the board, your superintendent, and your leadership. Your unassigned general fund balance was $10.5 million as of June 30th of 2018. That represents 13% of budgeted general fund expenditures for fiscal year 2019. And once again, you did receive for June 30th of 2017 the certificates of excellence in financial reporting from both the Government Finance Officers Association and the Association of School Business Officials. And certainly we see no reason why you won't continue to receive those awards for fiscal year 2018 as well. I know that's a little bit hard to see, but I'll just go over some of the numbers there on your, again, this is the government-wide statement of net position. The total assets of the district were $379 million. Deferred outflows of resources related to the net pension and the net OPEB liabilities were $22 million. Current liabilities are $34.4 million. Long-term liabilities were $265 million. The net pension liability was $112 million, and the OPEB liability was $84 million, for total liabilities of $495 million. Okay. The deferred inflows, again related to the net pension and OPEB, were $11.7 million. That does leave total net position as a deficit related, again, due to the net pension and the OPEB, of a deficit of $105 million. Okay? Good. One too far. I did want to summarize just the district's district-wide revenues and expenses for fiscal year 2018 compared to fiscal year 2017. The grant revenues increased year over year by $3.3 million. Property tax and other revenues increased $2.8 million. Instruction-related expenses increased by $3.6 million, and interest and fiscal charges increased by $4 million. So overall, the government-wide net position increased by nearly $5.2 million. Okay. At this time, we'll be happy to answer any questions that you may have regarding our audits.
Question? From what I see, the fund balance is basically just staying the same as it was.
Exactly. Right. There wasn't a significant change in fiscal year 2018.
Any abnormalities in what you projected there in your revenues, property tax, other increases? Is that?
No, everything was really in line with what we were expecting and what we see with other districts in the area. So those are just some of the major changes year over year, but those were in line with our expectations in the budget.
Are you going over the agreed upon?
Yes, thank you very much. Included in my PowerPoint, but certainly the agreed upon procedures, again, were related to the affiliated entities. We looked at the 11 months ended May 31st, 2018. Those procedures including verifying that each of the affiliated entities submitted bank reconciliations to our firm and to the district in a timely manner after they were required to submit those. There were 10 organizations. I won't go through and name each of the organizations, but you can see them in the report. There were 10 organizations that did not provide the bank reconciliations as requested. They provided other documentation, just not those bank reconciliations. The second procedure was to ensure that there was proper documentation for cash disbursements by matching the invoices to the check written. Again, there were 8 affiliated entities that did not provide documentation in some way, shape, or form. It may have just been that one check didn't have backup with it, or it may have been that there were numerous items that were missing. But again, I won't go into all the details there. You have those in the report. And lastly, to ensure that there's proper documentation to support cash receipts and deposits by matching the deposit slip to the bank statement. Again, there were 3 affiliated entities that did not provide the requested documentation on deposits. Well, we did receive all of the documentation last year. That was an issue where there were 2 organizations that had not. This year we did receive all of the information from the affiliated entities.
For those of you that are new to the board, so you understand what these agreed upon procedures mean. As Dr. James said, these organizations are independent organizations at the school levels, and we don't have direct authority over those organizations. However, many people in the public perceive that since they are part of the school, then therefore we're responsible for their financial transactions. What we have to keep an arm's length distance between the school district and the support organizations. And therefore, what we try to do is to make them be financially responsible. In the past, where we've had difficulties is where parents then come to the district expecting the district to make good for something that was done at a school level where there may have been money that was misappropriated. So we try to do that, and under the advice of our accountants and our lawyers, they've said we've got to be careful that we keep at least that arm's length, that we're not controlling them. But we do try to make those organizations follow sound procedures, especially with regard to handling cash, because they deal in selling canteen money, and many times there's a lot of cash floating around, and they're supposed to follow procedures to do that. Or the one control we do have, if they don't do their job, we can dissolve that organization and say they can't be part of the school system. So these procedures are identifying all these organizations. They don't test everyone every year, but a random sampling. So that's what this is doing, and that is different from the audit, where this is the part we're responsible for, and this is the part that the district is squarely responsible for. This part is we're trying to make these organizations stay financially sound as best we can without violating the wall that's between us and those affiliated organizations. Did I say that correctly?
Absolutely, and just to kind of echo those comments as far as the district's fiscal responsibility and oversight in forming these procedures, these are not required. Your annual audits, the financial, the single audit, the procurement audit, those are required by both the State Department and federal government performing what you do as a district. But these affiliated organizations, they are independent, and so the district is going above and beyond what the requirements are in making sure, again, that they're keeping appropriate financial records. Absolutely.
Yes, at one time, we had considered trying to make these organizations themselves do audits, but that was, for some of them, the amount of money they raise is not sufficient to have to do an audit. That is why the district agreed to pay for these agreed upon procedures. And as part of that, each organization, when they elect their officers, is supposed to come to the district office and receive training on the proper way in order to handle money at the school level. And they're supposed to get all the rules about they can't keep cash, and if they get over a certain amount, it's got to be deposited. There's got to be checks and balances, and 2 people are supposed to sign off on the money. So there's a lot of different things in place, trying to make them be more responsible for money that is perceived to be part of the district, but is not.
Correct.
Mr. Bingham, there are organizations on here that year after year appear on this list. So you said that at one time we discussed, what are we going to actually do now? Because these repeat, excuse the expression, but offenders to the policy and documentation. Or what needs to be done.
Are they, can I ask another question? Are they, those who are selected, is this information shared with the organizations?
Some, to follow up on what Mr. Bingham said, Ms. Rawls has every year, and before her, Kelly Richardson had, a meeting, they end up, because it's difficult to get folks who work in the public to come all at one time, they end up having several of those meetings where they're taught ad nauseam the procedures for good financial accounting. We go beyond what is required in the fact that they're audited because we feel like the board needs to know what's going on. To answer your question in the short answer, yes, sir, they're very much aware because they are asked for materials. And the issue last year for the folks that Mrs. Kessler is talking about is the fact that we asked some organizations and we didn't get it, and finally, as Matthew said, sooner or later, it trickled in. The ideal situation is that these organizations know that in this district, we're going to ask that it be audited because we'd like to know where the money's going, even though it's not state money, it's money that comes in from donations or sales or fundraisers or things the kids are doing, and it needs to be transparent. So Marty continued doing that. We'll continue to have the audits, but long and short is yes, sir.
Let's be clear, this is not an audit. This is just agreed upon procedures to check if they're balancing the money right.
Right. So yes, they do know, they are asked. Marty explains that up front, what they will need when we come to this point in time in the year.
I mean, I think as a board, I mean, I know when we've been through this in the past with the auditors, we're kind of at the limits with what the board can do in terms of financial reporting and that sort of thing. Our next step is to start saying, well, we're not going to allow that organization to exist if they continue to do that. I mean, that's the only, I think that's our only remedies. We're trying to make them be financially responsible. If they're not going to be financially responsible, then it would be up to the board to say, we're going to dissolve that entity and not allow them to be affiliated with the schools. Nobody wants that, and I think that's incumbent upon the schools to make sure that they're getting the financial affairs in order. When somebody says, oh, well, I'm going to be the treasurer for an organization, they need to take it to heart. That means you're going to be responsible for the finances and making sure that the checkbook's balanced every month and the financial records are being turned in appropriately to the district.
You kind of have the mercy of the folks who were volunteering for these positions. Sometimes you'll see an organization that's not 1 year. It kind of goes the other way as well. Sometimes you have an organization that did not have perfect records, and then we look the next year and they didn't have an issue. That does happen. I know what we're seeing here is that it's more of the opposite.
Years and have been on here for years.
Right, I understand.
If we're not going to put any meat into what we say, we just might as well not say it. As we've been saying, these people should be aware of it by now, that there are consequences for not doing it the way it needs to be done.
Well, I think the only thing we can do is ask the superintendent to reinforce this with the heads of all the organizations, not just the ones on here, but all of them. And that, you know, if they don't start doing better, we're going to have to start taking action. Because I know whether we like it or not, when one of them doesn't do something right with the money, everybody's looking to the district to make it good.
Right.
So do we need to put that in a form of motion?
Well, I don't know. We need to direct the superintendent
Thank you.
to enforce or to let them know that we're looking at this hard.
We have not communicated with these organizations yet. We wanted you all to have a report before they saw this. They have not seen this report.
Yeah, I
And
think.
to clarify what you asked, Mr. Summers, yes, they know what information they're to give. but they don't know that they've been named. The board's only to see this, so I don't want to misrepresent it.
Yeah, I think that it's fair to say, I don't think that any board member is objecting to the fact that these organizations need to be, they need to do their financial duty. I mean, they're just, when they take on that responsibility, volunteer or not, we're all volunteers as well. We have to be elected, but, you know, we had to volunteer to do it. And that's part of when they want to take care of the money, then that's their job, is to take care of the money. Anything else? Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
As always, I know that the audit you just received, so if anybody looks through it and has any questions, we can always have the auditors come back and answer questions at a later date if they need to be answered and Marty's not able to answer those questions.
Mr. Bingham, before we move on, can I brag on Marty and her folks? They're getting two governmental awards again this next year, and out of $200 million, the only finding they had is somebody used a P card before they turned in their purchase request.
Now, if we can just get the affiliated organizations to do that, we'll be riding real high.
I'm doing all I can do, Mr. Banks.
We just get cracked in with it real hard.
Thanks, sir. I appreciate your comments.
All right. Consideration of approval of contract for audit services. My understanding is that we're not ready.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we're going to take that item off the agenda and move it to the next meeting. Next item is consideration of approval for Act 155 request granting high school diploma.
Mr. Bingham, members of the board, Dr. James, and friends, I have one petition tonight for a person who graduated in 1990 to receive their high school diploma. As you know, with Act 155, it's been into place that if they had completed all requirements for high school graduation, except for the exit exam, they could petition the local school board for that approval. So we have one petition that has come in, and I'd like to make the recommendation that you all accept that petition.
Motion to approve, recommended approval of the petition for the high school diploma as outlined in Act 155.
Motion by Ms. Kessler, do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Ms. Wood. Any discussion? Did y'all, Mr. Summers, and Ms. Rucker, y'all understand what that means? I know y'all are new on here, but if you need any further explanation, I'm glad to ask Mr. Brooks to explain what's going on with that and why we have to do that. You understand?
I got a little preview.
Okay, all right, okay.
Thank you.
All right, any questions? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next item on our agenda is consideration of local board-approved courses.
Every now and then we have some courses that we need to put in place that are not outlined by the State Department of Education, and when that happens, the local board has to approve those as well. And so I have two courses that I'd like for you to approve tonight. Those would be Creative Writing 2. We already have a Creating Writing 1, but this would be the second level that would be used in middle schools, grades 6 through 8. And then also Target 1. Target 1 is for our special needs students that have finished high school, and they really are in that range from 18 to 21. Typically what we have done is put those students in a homeroom to track them, and we're trying to put them now into a class so we can do it a little bit more appropriately than we were. So I would make the recommend, and by the way, these are only elective credits, and none of them are for high school credit now. So I'd like to make the recommendation that y'all accept me to rank 2 as well as Department 1.
I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the administration's recommendation for creative writing 2 and target 1.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second?
Second.
We have a second, discussion. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you, Mr. Brooks. Next on our agenda is consideration of contract for widening the road between Lexington Innovation Center and Busby Creative Arts Academy. Mr. Eisenhower.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, we brought to you in the last meeting that we had an issue in the afternoons between the new Innovation Center and Busby Creative Arts Academy. In the afternoons, we have a line of parents waiting to pick students up at the front of Busby Creative Arts Academy. And we have buses that are trying to get into the back of the Innovation Center to pick up students. And if the bell rings, we got students trying to come out of the Innovation Center. And our buses are having to go around that line of parents on the wrong side of the road in order to get to the back of the Innovation Center to pick up students. If that bus is a little bit late, we get into a little bit of an issue. So we got the cars going in opposite directions, one being a bigger vehicle than the other. But we ask you to basically to allow us to put this project out to bid by the 2 construction management contractors that have been associated with the 2 projects that we had out there. That being Embecon and Thompson Turner. And again, just to try to expedite this process. So we have tonight a recommendation to approve a contract with Thompson Turner Construction in the amount of $143,791. And that is to make that 2-lane road a 3-lane road area effective, so that we have a turning lane for our buses to get around the parents that are lined up in the very right-hand lane. And that's $143,791.
I'll entertain the motion.
Mr. Bingham, I make a motion the recommendation that's been considered by the administration be awarded for the construction of the road between Busby Elementary, Busby Middle School, and Casey Elementary, be awarded to Thompson Turner in the amount of $143,791.
Okay, I have a motion, do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Kidd. Any discussion? Being none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thanks, sir.
Next on our agenda is consideration of request for overnight or out-of-state student travel.
Mr. Chairman, I make a motion that we approve the overnight and out-of-state student travel. I'm trying to do as good as Beth does. Items 1 through 6 as recommended by the administration.
Okay, we have a motion, do I have a second? I'll second. We have a second by Mr. Key. Any discussion? Ms. Casey?
It bothers me somewhat to look at an application that doesn't have the cost of the trip for the child and adult that's going, doesn't have insurance recognized, and it's not signed by the department head or athletic director. I would think the principal would want that before they sign off on it, but I really would like to see those applications be completed before they're submitted for approval. The majority of these do not have one or all.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.
Any other questions? Discussion? Being none, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Next on our agenda is the administrative divisional reports. First off is the superintendent.
Yes, sir, we've included in your packet 2 draft calendars. Mr. Hinton has worked really hard on these. I'll remind you that we can't begin school by law before the 3rd Monday in August. We have to have 180 student days. We have to have 190 teacher days. We have accepted holidays, Thanksgiving, Christmas, spring break that go in there. All that to say that Mr. Hinton's got some real parameters. There's not a lot of differences in the 2 calendars. November the 11th is a holiday in one. It's a regular school day in the other. December the 18th is a half day that begins the Christmas break in one calendar. It's a full day in the other. And on one calendar, we come back on January the 3rd, which is a Friday. The more popular calendar has us coming back on Monday, January the 6th. So anyway, we have not sent this to any schools, any staff, anyone. As we've done in my time here, we narrow it down to 2 calendars that are the best that we can come up with. Let the board look at it. If you have questions or concerns, you'll send them to me. I'll pass them on to Mr. Hinton. We'll try to revise that. Once the board's kind of looked at it, we'll get it out to the staff, and the staff will choose. On calendar A, Mr. Hinton has taken a little proactive step and has a hurricane day in there. So hopefully we won't need it, but it is there. But we won't ask anything tonight. This is just purely for your information. If you have suggestions, please let us know. Yes, sir.
I would suggest on calendar B, to perhaps look at moving or taking, instead of coming for one day on January the 3rd, that be read, and maybe move the end of school from the 28th to the 29th. They still get out before June 1st, but they don't have to come back for a single Friday.
That would work well, and I'm sure coming back on Friday is not a very popular thing.
There's a pre-filed bill and going to the legislature that's going to make Martin Luther King Memorial Day state holidays, and schools must adhere to them, and we can't even make up school days for weather. So that 25th is probably going to turn red. That's why I did what I did. And it'll still push it out to the 29th. It just
like Mr. Cleaver's suggestion.
So we have a feeling that Memorial Day is going to have to be taken. That's why we didn't use King or Memorial Day on any of our calendars as weather makeup days.
Anything that you all see as board members, if you let us know, and we'll keep you posted certainly on any bills that come through the General Assembly. But as always, Mr. Hinton's done a fine job of trying to get all that together and get all the rules and regulations and enough days.
Well, perhaps if that were to happen, we would change the December 19th to 20th.
Push that out, yes, sir.
At least they'd have 3 weekends and 2 full weeks in between them for Christmas. If we're going to have to take the 25th as an absolute.
And just have
It's just
a day.
coming for a single day on Friday does not seem to make a lot of sense. Not after a 2-week break.
Well, if we do that, we could push out the 20th, which actually make that a half day.
Right, the 20th be the half day, and then that way they'd be off the weekend, the whole week of Christmas, the whole week of New Year, and the weekend after. Okay. Is that all you need?
Yes, sir, that's all I need.
All right, we move on to the instruction.
Well, Dr. Bingham and I really believe in collaboration being key to what we do in construction across Lexington too, so it is my pleasure to have Megan Guerrero and Stephanie Hutz come up, and they're going to talk a little bit about the collaboration that they do between the two schools.
Clicker. It's like a walkie-talkie at school. It's like a clicker, you're in charge.
So good evening, Mr. Bingham, Dr. James, members of the board. It's our pleasure to be here tonight. Ms. Hutz and I are delighted to share our story from Fulmer and Busby, and it's always a pleasure to be able to talk about teaching and learning as always with you guys. And so we'll just spend a few minutes walking through our process that our two schools have really engaged in and how beneficial that's been for us. And so thank you very much for your time, and again, happy School Appreciation Month. So again, professional learning communities, a lot of this is what you're going to hear. And so for those of you who have been around this business for quite some time, or those of you who are getting your feet wet with teaching and learning, you might hear the process of PLCs, these acronyms. Of course, we're always about acronyms. So it's very much, we do PLCs on this day, you might hear it used in terms of that, or our PLC group and things of that nature. And so we're going to take a different spin on that. Stephanie and I, we're in a different mindset of this is more of a process. This is more of a way of going about doing school. And these, what we have up here, are just a few key components of what our two schools really immersed ourselves in. And it's really more or less an ongoing process of collaboration, much like Dr. Brooks, what he said, working together, getting people to work together, and really expanding upon that between our two schools. And so taking our show on the road, if you will, is what we've been very much about. Obviously a very results-oriented process. If kids aren't learning, why are we doing this and what is the purpose of it? And so that's obviously at the forefront of our thinking. And then improved learning, you're going back to the days of I taught it, they didn't learn it, moving on. And so very much shifting away from that mentality of this is about student learning. In order to get the kids to learn, we really have to get the adults to learn. And so that's really what we've been about throughout this process.
And so what we did is put together learning teams. And the purpose of learning teams are simply to really dig down and investigate what you're doing in the classroom, create those common assessments, look at the data, and use the data in order to drive instruction, create those strategies that help the teachers in the classroom.
And so our story began as two schools, essentially, and two schools with one common goal, which was obviously improving student achievement in both of our schools. And for those of you who have been around a while, either serving on the board or members of our community, you know our schools are vastly different in so many ways. But there's so much common ground with kids being kids and what we know works with kids and really finding those common grounds between our two schools. Obviously, Fulmer is the largest middle school in Lexington, too. We have the fortunate capabilities of having at least two teachers teaching each content per grade level. So 2 6th grade math, 2 6th grade ELA, 2 6th grade math, and so forth and so on. In doing that, our teachers have the advantage of being able to work together on a lot of these different things. What do the standards say about what the kids need to know? How are we going to assess what they know? How are we going to work together to find ways when they don't know or when they do know? So we have that fortunate capability of being able to do that. Busby was not that fortunate. Being a smaller school, you've got one teacher teaching one thing, and so it really isolates them and puts them in a situation where you don't really have someone to talk about student achievement and what you're doing and what works and things of that nature. This spoke to my heart when I was approached about this. Having taught at Pine Ridge Middle in our district, I was the only 6th grade science teacher, so going back to that, I knew the situation that we were in and welcomed an opportunity because it was about the collaboration, but it was also about the process. So again, we're going Nick Saban route, process, and what does that look like?
And so how did we do this? Well, we first of all knew that everyone had to have that positive attitude. We had to have the mindset that we were going to grow our instruction and make it work for the children. Everyone had to participate. We had to all collaborate. We had to share ideas. We had to have conversations and have tough conversations with each other in order to make this work. That's the teachers, the administrators, and even our students who have bought into this process. We knew that we needed to have weekly face-to-face collaboration meetings with no exception. Grade levels and content teachers had to meet and plan together. We knew that we needed to use Mastery Manager as a tool for collection, analyzing our data and giving us the results to look at and discuss with each other.
And we knew we had to be results oriented, let that data reflect the improved student learning that was taking place. So how does it work? What did we do? How did we start this process? First of all, the curriculum development. Now, Fulmer was already using notebooks, curriculum notebooks that they use. So when we merged together, we decided that this would be online. We would put everything online so that both the schools could access the information together. There's 45 minutes of uninterrupted quality collaboration time each Thursday, and Thursdays were reserved and nothing else could take place during this time. So what we did was we traveled back and forth. We alternated the sites. Busby would go to Fulmer one Thursday, the following week Fulmer students would come to Busby during the planning period, and the teachers would collaborate. And we did this for an entire year, and then we slowly moved it to virtual planning, online, web cameras and emails. And then, of course, we still had some teachers who enjoyed going to each other's school and collaborating. We all agreed that we would develop 3 common cumulative assessments and give those assessments during a certain window during the school year so that our teachers could look at the results and compare the results with each other. And then we, again, agreed to use Mastery Manager to put our questions into Mastery Manager and also align the standards so that we could analyze that data and see exactly what it is that the students were still missing or what they had already mastered.
And so really taking a look at, first and foremost, what do you want the kids to know? How are you going to know they know that? What are you going to do when they know it, and what are you going to do when they not know it? So it's pretty simple. The process in and of itself is pretty simple. But there was a lot of navigating the course. So as you can imagine, even in your given professions, when you get people in a room together who are kings and queens of their castles, there's some things that you kind of got to work through when you start talking about different personalities. And I'm teaching this particular group of kids, and my kids are this, and the needs of the students are obviously very different. So it took a lot of molding and forging those relationships between the 2 faculties. It also took heavy collaboration on our part. So we met either face-to-face or virtually every week. So it took from the top down. Our goal was to model what are the expectations for you guys, and we're going to also participate that as well. We had some very honest conversations about this is what's working in this grade level, this is what's not working in this grade level. And so we really took an opportunity to do what we were expecting our teachers to do, and that ultimately was able to lend itself to some pretty positive results. It allowed them to be more focused. You know, don't nail Jello to the wall. This is what you got to know. Get the kids to know this, and ultimately make sure that you're providing some additional support. So when they don't know it, and we've dealt with that quite a bit. What happens when they don't know it? You know, that's obviously a very real thing. But being able to talk to our friends at Busby and likewise, what are you doing to help your kids know this? And so it really allowed us to learn more and gain more in our toolbox. And so for us, you know, for me as a principal, you know, we talk about instructional leadership. How do you become an instructional leader? How do you be the best instructional leader that you can possibly be? Stick to this process. And so it's very much one of the things that it transcends elementary, middle, and high school. Stick to the process of being able to do this because you're really looking at gaining some positive results across the board. And so sustainability, now if you're to talk to my teachers, they're like, well, I talked to so-and-so over at Busby, and we said this, and we agreed this, and so now they're in a situation, so even if you imagine as a nurse or as an engineer, being able to talk to your colleagues about what's the best way to solve a problem with this, how do I, you know, improve patient care, what are you doing in your role, things of that nature. They're really having those professional relationships where they're close, I mean, they're tight. And so now we're in a situation where we really want to draw our other middle school friends into the mix of this because we've learned that it's super valuable. Because again, Busby's not sitting out on their island anymore, and Fulmer's not sitting in our building thinking we know everything. And so it's really about getting people to revisit that process. So the process, you got your mixtape process, but you got your Dabo-Sweeney relationships, and both of those working together have been what has been allowed this to be successful. And so when we sit down and talk with our teachers now, they're specific. You know, Stephanie talked about master manager. My kids know this about integer rules. My kids know this about, you know, whatever it is they're doing in language arts. They can sit down and be specific about what is, you know, Dr. James know about this. He does this, he doesn't know this. I'm going to work more specifically with this. This is what I'm going to do next. This is how I'm going to pull him in for this. they're really having those very specific conversations and down on the brass tacks of kids. And so it's been, you know, I would venture to say, my teachers are actually able to articulate, this is what has allowed us to grow kids in their learning process and to take them to where they're ready to go to high school and they're ready to do the things necessary.
And I just have some feedback from some teachers that I would like to share. One of my teachers said that, the 2 schools, 1 goal has helped me the most with improving my assessment writing skills, especially with increasing the rigor of questions and writing multiple choice answer options with strong distractors. And then one from a teacher who is in her 3rd year, which means she started the process as a first-year teacher. As a new teacher, the first year of 2 schools, 1 goal, I was able to benefit immensely from the process. Being able to build curriculum with a team of teachers working towards the same goal was awesome. By implementing backwards design with our common assessments, I felt more confident teaching and preparing my students, not only for the test, but for the next grade level. It's now my 3rd year, and I still feel secure planning with these teachers and learning from the process. We have been able to keep what worked and tweak what did not work. I've seen major growth and success from my students with 2 schools, 1 goal. And as a first-year principal, it's been very important to me to continue this process because it is continuing to help us drive instruction. And I took what this teacher wrote to heart because as a first-year teacher, they need as much support as they possibly can get. And this process has done nothing but support her. And I think that's very important, especially when you're looking to improve schools.
Can we answer anything for you guys? Thank you very much. Thank you.
Next on our agenda is the monthly financial.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, Dr. James, you have before you the December 31st monthly revenue summary. Since this report was produced, we actually received a little over $5 million in additional local sources and about $2.7 million in state sources. So our actual year-to-date at this time is $34,881,352, which puts us at that 43% comparing it to last year. Any questions on the revenue? Our next report is the monthly expenditure analysis as of December 31st. You can see that we continue to trend similarly to last year, and to date we have spent $33,119,675. Any questions on that one? The next report in your notebooks is the pupil activity funds. We did move it to a summary presentation for this month. I'll be happy to answer any questions on that report if you have them at any time. The next report is our capital projects commitments. We continued the way we presented the information last month.
Before you get
yes,
to capital project, let me go back and ask a little question.
Yes, sir.
With regard to our, the revenue versus the expenditures.
Yes, sir.
And I know we didn't receive that last $10 million or so until after this report was done. How are we doing in terms of balancing our cash flow in? Have we had to supplement with any sort of issuance of debt?
Yes, sir.
So fund balance has been able to handle our cash flow fluctuation through the tough time until tax collections.
We, with the $5 million, we actually had received the funding. We just did not have the details to account for it at the time. They make a deposit, and then it takes maybe 2 to 3 weeks, up to 4 weeks before we get the details of the deposit. So I had the $5 million back in December. I just didn't have the details to document exactly what accounts it went in.
How closely are we dipping into the fund balance by the time, when we hit our low point, kind of before tax collections in December?
It was a little tighter this year. We did have a lot of capital expenditures, so we were able to pull money to meet those needs from the referendum, but everything else actually was really not, it wasn't as tight as I was expecting it to be. We were, there was never a time when I was worried about where the cash was going to come from. We came through it very well. The timing of the tax payments and that $5 million was spot on. We expect another large tax deposit for January and probably still for February.
I know in years past, we've had to issue like some short-term debt
We did
to
not.
cover that gap, but
That tier 1 money under the state sources, that $4,499,000 also came in December. So like I said, the timing of those revenue receipts were spot on. It was right when I was starting to think, what are we going to, do we need to look at other options? But it's like right within a couple of days of each other, both of those amounts arrived. So everything was fine with that.
okay, all right, thank you.
Yes, sir. So the capital project commitments, this is similar form to what we presented to you last month. We did have an expenditure come through for Saluda River that we did take $300,000 out of uncommitted and committed to that project. It's not, it was an expenditure, a late invoice that came in, so nothing alarming. It just was money that was needed to complete that construction project. Still with the $5.2 million uncommitted. Any questions on that one? The last thing I have to present to you is the budget calendar for 2019-20. I cannot believe I'm saying 2020. But we have started with our budget meetings with principals and fund managers. Dr. James and I are conducting those with all of them. I'm sure you have heard education reform and funding is a hot topic in General Assembly. I think there's going to be a good bit of legislative action during the first year of this session. So there were some information came out of the governor's budget with a 5% increase for teacher salaries plus a $10 increase to base student costs. I would like to see that $10 go higher. We'll see how it comes out in the General Assembly. This is a calendar for you. We will look at a board workshop session sometime in March, and we'll schedule that as soon as we get some more information on where we are with revenues.
Do you know if the 5% increase, if they implement that, is the $10 increase in base student costs going to offset?
As I understand it, they would fund the 5% with $155 million and the $10 base student cost is the way I understood the budget was presented. So it would be a funded mandate, and the $10 would be in addition to that.
Well, it's funded to whatever the state
minimum, the
the state minimum
Yes,
is.
sir.
So we've got to
We would
cover
cover the local part.
the local part, which that's what I'm asking. The question is, the $10 will cover the,
No, sir. And we don't, my worry when I talk to Marty is that we may get a reoccurring debt with one-time money, that 5%. So, but $10 won't help.
We received $60 last year increase. Like I said, that came from the Senate side. I think that with Representative Lucas being so active in looking at legislation this year, I think we'll probably see a little bit more than the $10 come out of General Assembly. That's my opinion. I could be wrong, but it's just been such a huge topic in the news, and many legislators being encouraging the communications. I'm excited about that. And that's what I have.
so do we need to
No, sir, that's,
pass the calendar?
no, that's Marty and I working, and we'll try to stick close to it, but that's giving you our thoughts and ideas as we develop the budget.
Okay. So we don't have to adopt the calendar?
No, sir, that's just us.
Just for your information, where we are, what dates we expect things to happen.
Okay.
Marty's afraid I won't stay on schedule.
Well, no, we used to have to actually adopt the calendar. But when we're gonna meet on what budget sections and all that.
We don't now, but it's a good thing for me to have a calendar.
All right. Next is Administration Student Services Building Progress Report.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, Dr. James, I'll be happy to answer any questions that you might have about the construction update.
Discuss.
With the airport's softball and baseball, we're getting ready for season. In fact, they should be practicing now, in my opinion, excuse me, but I think they probably are. Is there any way to hurry that committee, that U.S. Department up on the approval for the ADA? Nothing that we can gouge them, nothing, just a reminder that we're waiting for this, or?
We're not waiting. I mean, we can use it.
Okay. All right, but other questions?
We're just trying to see if they're gonna make us do anything else. There were
That's
some
why-
little bitty nitpicky things that,
I
I
knew
don't
that
know
was
if
the
it's
whole
allowed.
up for them, and why we hadn't gotten it, but I'm thinking, sure, they could just sort of slough it off there, never mind. On the former veneer bricks, are those, is that vented?
you said vented.
I was concerned about veneer bricks, and it wasn't for me, so I went on the website, maybe that's the wrong thing to do. But it talks really big about being vented, and I thought back about the problem we had at airport, I mean, at Northside, with that wall, and I just thought we have moisture issues with this venting of that.
There are weep holes basically for water to get out.
Okay, and they say if there's a downflood of water, that doesn't excrete the water at a fast enough rate, and sometimes gets moisture into the interior wall.
Yes, as long as they don't have that, as long as they have that air cavity, which they are maintaining there,
Yes.
and we have the weeps, the effervescence will not be as rapid as what you're probably seeing. If you don't have airspace, that's when effervescence comes, like, the chemicals starts growing.
You have the weep holes, you have the waterproofing, and you have the airspace. Now, waterproofing is not right. I guess it would be more
It's
damp.
called,
It's a damp-proof
that's what it's
spray.
called in the article. So is this the first time we've used the veneer? Okay, so we've got it now.
All of them basically are that way.
All right.
I will say on that, on Fulmer, since you talked about that, I want to give kudos to Contract Construction because I don't know if you've been by there, but boy, that has been a muddy mess.
Yes.
And they have kept this thing on schedule. And, I know they've had to winch trucks, vehicles, and all kinds of things out of there. But I'm gonna tell you what, they have been trudging along, and they are still on schedule to finish this job in June. So I give credit where credit's due. We have had an unbelievable amount of bad weather, and they are still performing.
And it is a lot of progress there. One more question, district-wide, when is the digital marquee going to go up for BuzzFeed? Or is it, I just missed it, I
It's
guess?
up.
I didn't, last Saturday I went by there and the other two were shining, but I couldn't locate BuzzFeed's.
You can't see it from 12th Street.
Oh, man.
It's over there where the road forks on, where you go to the back of the
Yes.
store or front store.
Okay, thank you. And with somebody, and maybe it's already been written up, but the top part of Casey Elementary, either there's something burning out, it's not lit like the others.
The sign,
Yes, sir.
okay.
Thank you.
Principal was here, is he still here? All right, we'll check.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, we'll move to the next item, executive session.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion for the Board of Trustees to enter into executive session for the following items. consideration of personnel appointments and resignations, consideration of property matters, consideration of contractual matters, and consideration of expulsion appeal.
Have a motion, have a second.
Second.
Second by Ms. Wood. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, motion carries. Board members, before you take a break,